Good evening. I want to welcome you guys out tonight. Today is February the 18th, 2025. Our thought for today is your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth, author unknown. I want to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order tonight. I want to ask Commissioner Edwards if he would lead us in our invocation and if he would lead us in our pledge as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. We thank you for another day that we can come together and do the business of Newton County, Lord. We pray for wisdom, discernment. We pray your blessing upon each commissioner and up here, and we do the best we could. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioners. You had the opportunity to look at the agenda tonight. I seek a motion that we approve, please. Is there a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Long. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Next is citizens' comments. This opportunity we allow citizens to make comments about agenda topics only. Agenda topics only. You do have 3 minutes to do so. If you would like to comment this time, please state your name, your address for the record, please. Agenda topics only. Thank you. Next is the chairman's report. Tonight we have some special guests with us tonight. Ms. Latonya, you want to bring them up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are at item number 6, and we have our presentations for the 2025 Martin Luther King Jr. Award recipients. We have one of the committee members, Mr. James Wilson, if he's present. And I do not see him, so what we're going to do, if we can ask Ms. Avis Williams, she's the recipient of the I Have a Dream Award. The representative.
Yeah. So, Mr. Wilson, if you would please come on up as well. Thank you,
Hi,
sir.
Mr. Wilson. Welcome. Surprise, surprise. So we have asked you to come forward if you don't mind. We are introducing the recipients of the awards. The first award recipient is the I Have a Dream Award. That's going to be Ms. Avis Williams. And then the Chief Stoney Ham for the Legacy Award. And then, of course, we have the Young Dreamer Award, Adriana Drain, Carrion Christmas, and Sinai Thomas. If you could just give us a brief overview of the program, the recipients, and if we'll call them forward to kind of receive them after you introduce yourself to the board.
Perfect. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I'm James Wilson. I'm a member of the Commemoration Committee, the MLK Commemoration Committee. We are celebrating 40 years of new, yes, in District 2. I'm so happy to be here today to stand before you as a part of the committee, speak on behalf of the committee. We've been celebrating 40 years of celebrating Dr. King in Newton County. It's a huge accomplishment. It's huge for Newton County. And so we're just so proud of that. And these awards are a testament to the individuals in our community who exemplify the values that Dr. King stood for: justice, service, and an unwavering commitment to progress. And so we honored our award recipients at the 40th celebration that took place in January. A few of them are here today to receive honors from you all, from the commission. And we also want to thank you all for doing this. Every single year, we're able to come back and you all greet our award winners and you receive them and recognize them in a meeting. And we can't tell you how much that means to us as the committee and how much it means to our award recipients. So with that, if we're ready to start with the I Have a Dream Award, perfect. So the recipient of the I Have a Dream Award this year is Avis Williams. This award recognizes someone who has demonstrated a deep commitment to making Dr. King's dream a reality. working toward a more inclusive and equitable society for all. This year's award recipient is Avis Williams. She's known most notably through her work with Oxford College at Emory, where she's currently working to maintain and build on the legacy of the many enslaved African American people who actually built the college. Not only that, but she's known for helping to grow and build the Africana department at the college and for broader service to the Newton County community. She is very deserving of recognition, and so if she is here, we would love to welcome her to the stage and honor her.
Ms. Avis, Chairman Baines does have a certificate of recognition for you that he'd like to present at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this award. I'm humbled to work in this wonderful community led by our chairman and my mother. Her late twin sister grew up with Dr. King at our church, Bethlehem Baptist Church, and they followed him and were friends throughout his life until his untimely death. And I'm just appreciative of his relationship with the Bethlehem Baptist Church, where his maternal grandfather was the pastor and his uncle was pastor at Bethlehem. And I served there now as an associate minister, and I'm just humbled to be here with you all tonight. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you do for Newton County. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. If you could, we're gonna bring if you could stay up here, we're gonna take a group picture. Okay.
Okay. We'll move on to the Martin Luther King Jr. Legacy Award. The Legacy Award is an award that we don't give every year. It is a award that we bestow upon someone who has passed in our community. And this year's award recipient is certainly honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. They're certainly deserving of the award. It's Chief Stoney Ham. This award, the MLK Legacy Award, is given to a leader who's dedicated their life to advancing equity, service, and justice in our community. Stoney Ham was the first black fire marshal in Newton County. He served in the military. He is known for serving his family, the Ham family. They're very well known here in Newton County. And he is known for his kindness and his compassion and his dedication to Newton County. And so he is incredibly deserving of this award. We hate that we were not able to bestow an award on him while he was here with us, but his family was very gracious. They received the award from us in January. We were honored to have them here, and we're even more honored to honor him here tonight in front of you all. So thank you. Next, we will introduce the Young Dreamer Award. The Young Dreamer Award is very special to me. I'm a previous Young Dreamer Award recipient, so I'm so happy to be here to recognize them. The Young Dreamer Award is given to an outstanding young leader, in this case, three. We have three outstanding young women who embody the vision, the courage, and the commitment to justice that Dr. King championed. This year, our award recipients were Sinai Thomas, Carrie Ann Christmas, and Adriana Drain. Please join me in congratulating them. Our young dreamers, as they make their way to the stage, our young dreamers are all incredible young public servants. They are all students in our public schools, from Alcovey High School to Newton High School and the Career Academy. They're all involved in some type of community service. We have Ms. Christmas, who actually had a cursive writing workshop for 5th grade students. Adriana Drain is working on dementia and Alzheimer's, spreading awareness about those two chronic illnesses in the communities. And Sinai Thomas has been incredibly dedicated in her church as a volunteer. We're so deeply proud of them and the work that they do. So we want to congratulate them again, if you all will join me one more time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, and congratulations as well.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing me for this award. I feel like recognizing people, and especially young students, is special today in society, especially when they're working hard and not noticed. So thank you for recognizing me, and that's opened many doors for me today, so thank you.
Yes, I would like to say thank you for the committee who decided to recognize me tonight. And I'd also like to say thank you because it wasn't just me who put together the workshop and any other community service I did. It takes an army to take care of this county. So I'd also like to give a thank you to the people who supported me tonight.
Take a group picture right quick, we'll greatly appreciate it. Congratulations.
And we just want to close with this. We're so thankful to the County Commission again. Every year you all give us the opportunity to come bring our award recipients and recognize them here, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate that. So thank you for having us, and we hope to see you next year for our 41st. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, in the chairman's report, we're going to bring up the JDA. Again, congratulations to all the recipients. Y'all guys do a great job, and thank you. We look forward to seeing what you we're going to do in the future. JDA. Mr. Jerry Sivio and Miss Sarah Hall. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome tonight.
Thank you very much. Welcome to you, Mr. Chairman, and other commissioners of the board. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Great to see you. And at first, I just want to say thank you for placing us on the agenda tonight, and also congratulations to the award recipients. Those are wonderful people, and it's really exciting to see young people recognized as well too. So before you have our Q4 wrap-up of the Joint Development Authority in Stanton Springs. So I serve as one of your liaisons for the Joint Development Authority, and so again, keep in mind that this is from the end of year wrap-up and quarter past. And so a couple of things to mention is if you look at your marketing activities and current tenant updates, and I'll start with the current marketing activities. I think it is kind of a misnomer that the JDA is complete, right? We hear that often, and we hear that, you know, the sites are finished, and we actually have one site left, and that site is within Newton County. It's about 88 acres, and the Joint Development Authority is working to prep that site to get it ready for potential new users, new customers to come into that area. And so you can see we're working on clearing some of the structures or even timbering the property to make it more marketable for potential purchase or lease. Along with that, our current tenants, such as Rivian, has secured their DOE loan at the beginning of this year, and that also allowed them to be more stable and secure with the movement into that they would begin starting vertical construction in 2026. And then exciting news is that the Meta campus, campus number 1, as you drive into Shire Parkway, that campus is now fully 100% operational and what they call online. So every time we're posting, every time you're live streaming, it's coming in for our data service campus there. And then if you drive out at exit 101, you've seen the large structure from the Water Authority, the new tower. I think it has approximately 22 more feet to go. But that water service, and I won't steal Mr. Brown's thunder here, but it's a bigger part of a collective plan around reuse, recycling between the county, the city, the Water Authority, and our partners out at Stanton Springs, Rivian, Takeda, and Facebook. And so that's a great thing for all of us in that. And so we're very excited that our current tenants look toward a recycling type program, especially to be conservative of our water supply.
Thank you, Sarah. So the second piece of information that Sarah provided to you is a spreadsheet of a lot of information here. And I just want to introduce that to you. You see the area in green, which would show the tax receipts and the distribution to each of the counties and each of the school boards, and the percentages each get from the revenues that come into the Joint Development Authority. Those taxes, the one larger one would be from Takeda, and so they're into their tax abatement program started in 2018 and expires in 2028. But that is an increasing, and I think this coming year their revenue from tax to distribution through Walton County is a little over $6 million. So, and that goes up to maybe $8 million over the next couple of years. And then the second carry, the sort of the pinkish orange section would be the pilot payments, which I know you're all familiar with. And that first campus by Meta has 5 buildings now completed, COs, so they are paying $5 million a year going forward. And then the other campus will come on stream probably in the next year with at least 2 buildings probably. So things look very favorable for the near term. The second area would be the debt paid, which is kind of interesting because after the first and the second Meta purchases, that yielded sufficient funds and overage for us to pay off all remaining debt. So we are debt free at this moment. And then we had cash payments, and you'll see the distribution and the period of time in the gray area. And then the second darker or slightly purplish area is a total of funds generated by the Joint Development Authority, and that totals $42 million through 24. October 24. And then, so that money went to the schools and the counties, as you see. So the difference, which is a very important, I think, fact or number to look at, is the fact that we took in enough money to return to the counties and the school boards $32 million with an investment of $10 million. So that's a pretty good return for a public partnership over since the beginning of this development, 2099. So there are other very interesting gee whiz points in the financial section of the handout, but rather than read them, it really takes a little more than just glancing over them, and I'll leave you for that time at your pleasure. Sarah?
Yes, sir. So lastly, I think we just want to say what's next, and I think you can see the continuation of the build out of the Old Mill interchange, as well as further infrastructure lines to come in there. And then also too, I think everyone is, as Jerry pointed out here, is that you're looking at the payout. So we did this, and really if you look at the blue numbers, again at the bottom, total payouts to at the bottom of the area, but you'll also notice a number that's there that approximately since inception of the JDA, a little over $11.8 million has been returned back to the county and the school system. again, based on your millage rate. And so going back from about the year 2000 and when they were collecting to now, it's a little over $11.8 million, and that number is only going to continue. But thank you for your time tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Happy to take any questions. And again, as Jerry mentioned, there's quite a lot of detail. This information also, to make clear, the quarterly report is always on the JDA's website. Also, this information on the payouts is there as well too. That is something that the JDA publishes quarterly, but all of that information is listed there. So if anybody wants to go to i20jda.com, they can find this information readily available as well too. So thank you again.
Or you could join us at our board meetings.
Or that too. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the county manager report.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening, sir.
Would like to invite Jeff Prine to give an update to the board about the SPLOST projects.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
All right, we got it up there. So we've broken the report up into the three sections, or the three different SPLOST programs that we've actively got going on today. SPLOST 11, and the only project that we have moving forward in that is, let me go ahead and do it, is the historic jail rehabilitation project. We're going to have a discussion about that project here later on this tonight. So we'll get more details about that as we move forward. And then we move into SPLOST 17. You can see the update on the overall financials. And we're down to just 2 active projects that are county projects. The first one is the Westside Youth Facility. And where we are on that one is specific property assessment is underway. And that's about all I can say about that tonight. But we are looking at specific properties and analyzing those, and hopefully we'll be able to come back to you with a report soon. And then the Yellow River Trail System. So one of the things that we've been doing with this particular project is finding ways to work with the developers. We did, as you guys remember, we did a complete comprehensive master plan, both of the north and the southern segments of the actual county. And then out of that, we developed our kind of phase 1. The phase 1 was to look at properties from Browns Bridge Road up toward the I-20 along the Yellow River and adjacent to Crowell Road. There are 4 developments that are actively going on right now that we are in the process of working with to finalize donations of easements, and in some cases work with them on construction of segment of the trails. The first one is Dobbs Landing. I'm gonna get back over here. The first one is Dobbs Landing on the left, and that one is going through a preliminary plat approval. The towns at Yellow River, which is a little bit further south, and then Point Grand Covington, which is basically straddling the entrance into the high school on Round Drive. The last one is the Oaks, and that project, we already had a letter of intent, but that development has been going through some restructuring as we understand it. So we're kind of waiting for them to come back to us with their new ownership group so we can sit down and hopefully get that project moving forward again. Moving into SPLOST 23. So you can see that we have Tier 1, 2, and Tier 2, well, Tier 1 and Tier 2 active projects going on at the moment. So we have several projects that are going on at the same time. This is our financial update. The revenues are strong and able to keep up with the cash flow that we need for the projects. The Tier 1 schedule shows the Tier 1 projects, which was our bond projects. As you can see, all of those projects are moving forward with the exception of the community water park. That project is on hold, and that's due to the fact that we are looking at the fact that it's going to need additional funds to develop the property and the project as it's necessary. The first one is the countywide park improvements. We completed all of the City Pond Park athletic lighting retrofits. We've completed the turf renovations. If you saw the tournament that happened over the weekend, that was partially there, and also at Turner Lake, where we put in the synthetic turf, as you can see, at both locations. And then we also are in the process now of doing asphalt repairs at both Turner Lake and at City Pond Park in the pedestrian walkway areas. And we're just waiting for the weather to participate on that. The Senior Services Enrichment Center, that project is actively under construction. We've completed most of our major grading, detention for our stormwater detention. Footings and slab have been poured, as you can see here in the aerial photographs and the photos. So within the next couple of weeks, you'll start seeing framing going up. And if the weather gets better, we'll start to see us working on putting in the curb and gutter and the parking areas as well. The Westside Community Park is also a project that is under a specific property assessment for tracts of land. So once again, just like the Westside Youth Facility, we hope to come back soon with a recommendation. The Southside Community, or Fat Three Shoals Park, we have completed the overall master plan. We presented at the last board meeting the design services amendment with Lowe's Design for phase 1, and that was approved by you, and we're now moving forward with the design. We actually met yesterday on site and walked the property with the designer and with the survey team, just kind of looking at the lay of the land and beginning to get that process moving forward. So very excited about this. This is going to be a very, a lot of people don't understand just how beautiful Fat Three Shoals is. It's one of the more beautiful parks in the county. So we're excited about these improvements. Community Water Park, but we talked about that one. Public Safety Fleet Replacement. The Sheriff's Department, for all intents and purposes, is complete. They have just one, with the exception of the Bearcat armored vehicle, everything else has been received or are actively on the road. And you can see some examples of things from motorcycles to cruisers to vans to armored vehicles as well. So that has been moving very effectively for the Sheriff's Department. The Fire Department is got their pumpers and tenders are still out being manufacturing, and those will start coming in this year as well. So Public Safety Fleet is basically encumbered, and Sheriff's Department is taken care of, and Fire Department is right behind it. On the General Government Fleet, as you can see, it's a lot of information here, but they're about halfway bought out with their equipment, and I'm looking for another wave of equipment to start coming in for purchasing later on this year. Moving into our active Tier 2 schedules, we've got 5 projects that are actively underway at this point. The first one is R.L. Cousins Community Center. And as you may know, this is a project that includes both the rehabilitation and renovation of the historic R.L. Cousins School, and then the addition of a new community center. The images you see here are the new construction, or what will be the new community center. Currently, all of our under-slab utilities are complete. Our walls are complete in the renovations. The mechanical, electrical, and low-voltage systems have been ran. The elections offices are basically 85% complete, and site grading is started for the parking areas that are in front of the historic school for the new parking lot. At this point, we're tracking for the elections department to move into their new offices in mid-March, so we're a few weeks out. This is an aerial that shows wings B and C that were demolished so that we can build a new community center. Also, there will be an addition on to the elections office where they'll have the storage of all their election equipment. And then there'll be an event lawn that will be on the opposite side of the community center. Here's some of the photos that shows the election offices that are underway, the new parking area. That's the entrance on the left-hand bottom corner to elections. And then on the opposite side, there's some offices where we'll have solid waste. We'll also have a meeting room, conference space, and a break room for the complex. And then you can see the grading that's going on out by where the new community center is going. Project is on task and also on budget. The administrative building renovations. So the third floor HR offices and renovations are complete. They are temporarily housed in the spaces. We've got new furniture that is scheduled to be delivered in the first week of March. So once we get the furniture in, then that section of it will be completed. Finance department, the demolition is complete. The wall framing is going in. Matter of fact, probably by now we've got drywall going up. So that project is on track for finance to move in to their offices in the April timeframe. And then we'll follow behind that with, when elections moves out, then we'll start to renovate the spaces that they're in to build what we're calling the conference center, which will be a series of rooms that can be used by staff, communities, or others for meeting events as well. And then the last segment of it will be the planning department, which will be finishing up later on this fall. And here's some of the photos. You can see like I said, by now you can see there's even more drywall that's going up in the finance. And then you can see some photos of the HR spaces up on the third floor. And if you've ever been to the third floor, and some of y'all have, it was just open like a warehouse up there. So it's very nice. The centralized storage building, which is being built along Stalling Street, in between the historic jail and the old sheriff's building, is under construction. The pre-engineered metal building structure is complete, and they're starting to put the metal studs up. This is what the building will look like when it is completed. And the purpose of that building is for storage of different types of archivable records and equipment for the county. Here's some of the photos that show it in progress. The next one is Fire Station number 5. This project is in the very early conceptual stage. This is property that was donated to the county by the state of Georgia, the Forestry Division, and so it was an old forestry building. So we're in the process now of doing a conceptual design and working with the developer that is developing the properties around it to see if we can do some joint development as it relates to sewer, stormwater detention, and access. The intent is to develop a letter of intent with them where we could share those resources. And once we get that, we'd bring that back to you for your ratification. And then, of course, Nelson Heights Community Center. And we'll have, once again, a more detailed discussion about where we are on that project later on. But we have completed the building assessment, and tonight we're going to present to you the building budget analysis and how we think we can best use the funds to accomplish what we've heard the community would like us to do. And with that, I'll take any questions that there may be.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, guys? Commissioner Henderson.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. Prine, and your staff for doing such a very good job, on these projects, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
The question that I have is articles, because it's been a project that I've kind of been a part of for I guess most of the years since I've been on the Board of Commissioners. And from leasing that particular piece of property to found after a few years of purchases in that particular piece of property for the county. And then it was getting the funding for articles and for it to be renovated, and like most counties or all counties, we have a SPLOST committee. In this particular instance, and I can't get, during our briefing or meeting at, I think last week, we talked a little bit, at least I talked a little bit about, not we, I talked a little bit about it, was that our SPLOST committee looked at all the projects, our cousins and Nelson Heights, but more, I'm speaking about our cousins now, and they denied the monies to renovate it. So then the only option that we had before the voters of Newton County was to try and get my fellow commissioners to kind of put it on the SPLOST list for it to be built, because that's an action that basically made by the Board of Commissioners. And we were fortunate to get the board, at least 3 members, and I know Ronnie Cow, myself, and former Commissioner Sanders, and then the whole board chimed in, was to spend $8 million to renovate it. And we had did a letter where Ronnie Coward and I, when he was on the board, we went over and looked at it, and I did a letter about what we wanted and how we wanted it, and I think this basically what you're doing above and beyond.
Yes, sir.
But there was one piece on it that we talked about at the meeting that was in that letter, and I think Ms. Jack or someone can pull it up, and it states what we said, that if this project is approved by the voters of Newton County, that we wanted a space out front in commemoration of the students of our cousin who on Easter Sunday, or Easter Day, they call it Easter Sunday, where they marched from our cousin to the square in commemoration of Forrest Sawyer, Anthony Avery, and all the students who really wanted to make a change, you know, whereas we integrated. And I was a small something back then, whereas we integrated, and we wanted to make sure that they be remembered for them standing up for what they believed to be right. And as history has revealed, they was right. And we didn't see that there. So we wanted that to be on that, because this what we think they stood up for. We stood up for this board, and Ronnie was he went to school particular too, because once we integrated, Hebrew kids went there, both black and white kids, and so we wanted a commemoration. I don't know, it could be a real nice plaque or something out front around the flag. It could be on the election side, but we wanted something in commemoration of them. And lastly, also on that particular paper, we said at the further end of that cousin property, we wanted a side entrance to Carson Trail in commemoration of, which I think they had told me they wanted, of Alvin Turner, to remember him and him being the assistant chief for years and years and years. And there was just people that I know I don't want to forget and won't forget. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in Newton County feel that way too as well. So we would like, if in a way possible, for you to go back and look at what we had asked from that list. I think I remember giving you that list of that and maybe adding that feature or that marker onto that property for the community.
So,
thank you.
So there's 2 things that we're doing. So in the historic entrance into the administrative wing, that front portion of the building, when you walk into that lobby, we're going to have in that space, we're going to have it set up as a historic memorabilia area. So we're going to have, and we've come up with a couple concepts that we're working with the stakeholder team to get input on. And part of that is to look at the history of the students that were there, have a case where we could put different things in it that they wanted to have in there, like yearbooks or whatever they banned, whatever they wanted to do. And then there was a historic plaque that was inside that area that dedicated the building when it was first built. So we're having that refurbished and placed there. And of course, the Alumni Association are always great to tell us that we've got the wrong color on the signage. They were never green, they were a burgundy. So we're making sure that we pay attention to that. On the cafeteria side, the entrance into the building there, that wall that you'll see from the parking area that's out behind Wolverine Gym, that's another main entrance into the space. We're going to be working with a local muralist to put together a mural and paint a mural on that entire wall. And we need input, like what you just said, of what we would like to have on that wall. And so I certainly want to get that more detailed information from you, Commissioner Henderson, so we can sit down and add those components to it, because I think that would be a great way of representing the things you've talked about and others that we've heard from other members of the community as well.
Absolutely, and I'm just closing. I'm gonna make a big, long talk about it. But there was a stone outside the school. I remember that when I was going there. And when it had been, I guess, sold or moved, somebody removed the stone. And so when I talked to the people who lived in the neighborhood at that particular time, excuse me, what they said was they wanted some in commemoration of when they walked out of the school, from the school, into the square. And in most counties, you can go to Egypt and they got something. Well, maybe not similar to what I'm talking about, but in commemoration of the people back in that particular time. And we thought that would be good. And I told them that I was going to stand up, speak up for it, and hopefully get it done. So that's where we're at. And so hopefully we get a chance to talk about it and place something there in remembrance.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Prine, for your presentation tonight. Can we go back to the slide of the Senior Enrichment Center just for a moment? So while we're doing that, I've received a lot of positive feedback from the seniors that are in or near this area. They're truly, truly excited about this particular facility. I know it's going to be convenient for a lot of them. And so they're very excited about it. Looking at
Ms.
this.
Frida is too.
Yeah, she is. She definitely is excited about it as well. So just looking at, and because I live in this area, I get an opportunity to drive by it every single day. So I get an opportunity to kind of see the progress. And so I think you all are doing an amazing job from a progressive perspective. So looking at this, I know it was brought to my attention in the initial plans, and you can correct me if I'm incorrect, that there was supposed to be a community room kind of like the one at Turner Lake. But I'm not sure if that is still going to be in this particular facility. I know that was something that was needed, heavily needed. And I don't know from looking at the foundation that you've laid so far, if that is something that is a part of this room, a part of this plan. And if not, how can we make that happen?
So you're exactly correct. When we first master plan, and I don't have a building plan to show you, but when we initially planned the building and master planned, on the side, we designed a fellowship hall that could be attached to the building. We do not have the budget as it stood today to be able to include that into this phase of construction. But it's master planned where we can come back and add it if the funds came available. Very much like what we did at Turner Lake, where we built what we could build in phase one,
Right.
and then later on, when funds came available, we did a phase two and added those other activity spaces. So the intent was to make sure that we were able to do that here.
So it is based off of this plan, we can do a phase two to add on the community room, kind of like the same space that's at Turner Lake.
Very similar,
Okay.
and it would be, I can't get this to point, but it would be on the kind of the bottom left-hand side of that space that you see. Yeah, right in there is where it's planned to go.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So
And
we
it
got
would
it. So we got it graded.
Okay.
So all you'd have to do is have the funds to really just kind of put the rest of the building there as it is and connect it.
Okay. And would it wouldn't be attached to the current facility. It would be detached, and there would just kind of be a walkway.
Correct.
That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Would it be an open walkway or closed in?
Enclosed.
Okay, enclosed.
Enclosed, so we could keep it all conditioned and
Excellent.
everything.
That answered my question.
the reason why we had it connected that way was so that you'd have another entrance to the back, because there's activity spaces in the rear of the building.
Right.
You know, a grass area, a pavilion, and then also a pickleball court.
Right.
So, because you got to have pickleball, right?
Have to have it.
Got to have pickleball. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Answer my question.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe, Jeff, thank you for that presentation. So, Fire Station 5,
Yes, sir.
believe that's in District 3.
It is.
And you talked about access to the communities, I guess, behind it, the communities that are being developed behind that.
Yes, sir.
So in negotiations with maybe those builders or developers to give the fire department access to those neighborhoods, not necessarily through access for traffic, but at least for the fire department to get, because that would cut off 15 minutes either way.
Exactly. Well, there's two things there. If you can see here, the red is our existing building that we would be renovating, and the darker line that you see that goes around that kind of triangular piece of property, that's the property that we own. So, but the access road that you see there, if we tried to come out at our particular piece of property where that drive is, we would be in the toe of a pretty decent slope on that access road. But if we come out the rear and we tie into the new access road that's going to be leading from the top of the hill down into that community that they're building with townhomes, then now we can exit out to the top of the hill, go in either direction safely. And then also they're putting in a new sewer line. We're looking at doing the stormwater detention facility. So we're probably, if we can make this work, and I think the developer is really willing so far to work with us on this, we could really have probably about $1 million investment working on behalf of our favor there. So we're really excited about that.
Good. I know in the past that some of our build-outs in particularly District 3 had concerns about fire, and maybe this will help mitigate some of it, other than not building homes 10 feet apart. You know, I'm hoping that this will help mitigate some of that fire time, response time anyway.
That's my understanding, is it would help to reduce the time it would take to get in that particular service district.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. You had mentioned, I think, during your presentation about the water park off Turner Lake, and I think it was I think at one point it was proposed to be $19 million, and then the funds didn't flow in the way we kind of wanted to flow in, and I think we may have only $3 million for it. And so I know that at the end of all the SPLOST projects, sometimes there is some excess cash or money that left. And could some of that money be used to help move forward the water park over in Turner Lake? And the reason why I'm saying there was a lot of people who had wanted the water park there who came in and showed the amenities that they wanted for that particular park at Turner Lake. And so, you know, we want to make sure that they know that I know what they wanted, and that we want to continue to move and fight for their needs and their wants in the community. And so, I guess, what kind of track are we on of what is it? Are we talking about another splash? Are we talking about, or could we do it in phases?
So these are very good questions. If you look at the image that's up on the screen right there, that is kind of the conceptual master plan of the water park on the southern segment of Turner Lake. So we went through the process. We identified that to be the most prevalent place to put it. We've done a conceptual plan, and we've done an estimate on what the cost would be to develop there. And we have $5 million total budgeted, and the development would be much more than that. Obviously, you know, if you've looked at what Henry County is building, I mean, they're building a $48 million. I think it may even be in the 50s now. We're not talking about doing anything like that in phase one, but something that would be a starting point of the total development. Yes, I think probably the most prudent thing is to wait till later into the program, like we've done on some of the other projects, like Spring Hill is a good example. We waited till later in the project, in the development of the program. There was funds that were available. We added those funds to the project, and we were able to develop a very, very nice park project. So that would be kind of our goal on that particular project. And obviously, you know, we work at y'all's discretion. So when y'all are ready to do that and we're able to make that presentation, we'll come forward with that.
Thanks, sir. Anything else? County Manager? That's it? Thank you, sir.
Yes, at the end of the county manager's report.
Thank you, sir. Next is the consent agenda. Gotta seek a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Can I get a second, please? The motion by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Lindsay. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next item on the agenda is our new business starting at number 10, Cornish Creek WTP Upgrades. This is going to be presented by the Director of Water Resources, Mr. James Brown. This is regarding being in compliance with the Newton County purchasing policy. A second request is required for final approval of the WTP upgrades.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brown.
Good evening again. Again, this is the second reading of the Newton County purchasing policy for the project of this size. Has to be read twice. So just reiterating everything from the first meeting. This is the project that's moving forward to save the county some tax money and also keep the project on pace by it's been funded by ARPA. So this is the first initial release for this project to keep everything on track.
Thank you so much, sir. Guys, we do have to vote on this again. I seek a motion, please.
So moved.
Can I get a second? It's been motion by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0.
Mr. Chair, we have items number 11 and 12 also that will be presented by Mr. Jeff Prine. Number 11 is a discussion of Nestling Heights Community Center, proposed rehabilitation plan and budget. The cost just over $808,000. Number 12 is Facilities Department is requesting approval of Sunbelt Builders Incorporated Construction Management Design Build Contract Amendment number 2 for Newton County, just a bit over $250,000.
Thank you.
Do y'all have this report in y'all's packet? Should look like it should have the budget and then another sheet on the back of that has the breakdown. Okay. There you go. That's it. So if you can follow along with me on that, because I don't think we have it electronically. So the first sheet, the one that says Nestling Heights Community Center budget dashboard, that just tells you that the project has a total budget of $1 million. Now, out of that $1 million, we have to cover a series of things, construction being one of them, soft costs for the design, for project management, and for FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So when we put aside the money for the design build fees, which was $20,400, owner supplied FF&E, and we'll talk about what some of those components would be. That's $59,000. That left us with just over $800,000 that we could work toward putting toward the improvements that was asked for. So from that, there was a series of meetings that was done that identified about 15 or 16 different components that they were asking us to investigate from a pricing perspective. So we sat down with the design builder, which is Sunbelt, and we did an assessment of the building to figure out what the condition was, what are the starting things that we needed to work for. And then from each of these, we have put together either an estimate budget, or what that will be. And the good news is, with the exception of the shingle roof, which we think we can cover that with some contingency, we can cover everything that the community was asking for. But it starts with proposal A, which was purchasing new tables, chairs, and Chromebooks. That would come out of that $59,000 that we've got budgeted for furniture and equipment. And then we would install a new playground equipment for smaller children. There is a playground there, but it needs one for the smaller children. So that would be $54,700. We would install a new splash pad, very similar or if not identical to what we have over at Spring Hill Park, for $117,000. We would do a full kitchen renovation for $70,889. We would also renovate the kitchen serving window and put in new overhead coiling doors for that for $14,000. We would put new flooring throughout the existing building for $23,000. We would basically gut the restroom, put in a complete renovation, put new fixtures and everything in there for the $48,000. We would put all new LED lighting throughout the existing space for $18,900. We would install new acoustical ceiling tiles throughout for $10,900. We would patch, paint all the interior walls and surfaces, both on the interior for $8,500. We would install new security cameras around the complex and specifically the building itself for $14,000. We would renovate the computer lab, and part of that renovation on this IT is tied to getting enough bandwidth that we could then set up the computer lab and have the laptops that would be free throughout the space itself. We'd renovate the office. We would put in a new janitorial storage room. We would put in new hardware and access controls. We would replace all the window treatments and put in new window shades. We would also, if you go out there now, you'll notice that the existing parking area is just gravel. So we would come in and we would pave and stripe that so that you could really identify where the parking spaces are and so forth. We would pressure wash, patch, and paint the exterior. We would install new low-maintenance landscaping around the building and the complex. We'd install all new electrical power and fixtures to that existing pavilion that's in the rear of the actual property itself. We'd repair and replace some of the existing playground equipment of the bigger playground that's there. We'd install a new project sign. And if you've been out there, we have a project construction sign that's up now saying that this is forthcoming. Little things like cleaning the ductwork. We got up there and looked at the ductwork, and the ductwork was pretty dirty. So we cleaned that out. Put a new fire alarm system. And then we would do a series of upgrades to all the IT systems like we talked about. So all of that comes to $808,200. And like I said, the only thing that isn't currently in that was the shingle roof, which by all intents and purposes, we think that has got a few more years on it. But we also know that history has shown that when we really buy this out and get this under contract, that we would be in a position to have some savings that we could come back and add that back later. So we're happy with where we are. What we're looking for is kind of a blessing from you guys tonight to kind of accept this and authorize us to move forward into the next phase of construction of doing this. The other thing that's imperative is timing, which is why tonight is important. Our goal is to have all of these improvements completed by mid-July so that when the students come back for the new school year in the first week of August, that this facility is up and running and ready to go for all the programs that you guys would like to have held there, and so forth.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, Commissioner? All of y'all. Now let Commissioner Henderson, he was first, so go ahead, sir.
Thank you. First question I want to ask you, Mr. Prine, is that I have maybe a few questions. How old is that building?
That's a good question. You know, the interesting thing, I don't know the exact years that building is, but it's actually in pretty good shape in the scheme of things. I was pleasantly surprised with it. It's probably somewhere, you should know how old it is what exactly?
I think about 15, 16.
I don't,
15
really
years. I mean, it's off
old?
top of.
I was going to say somewhere around 10.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll take that. You know,
the original builder actually showed up at our construction pre-proposal. He just didn't have the numbers, so he didn't get the job.
Correct. And so I think the community, they're very excited about it being renovated and put back into use after about 2 years and a half, maybe a little more, a little less. Their concern was because they felt like from use of it, it probably didn't need quite as much as we were talking about. But I said, well, let's let them come in and fix the way it needs to be fixed. And as I once said a few years, well, maybe a year or 2 years back, said let's do it better, run it better than it had been ran. And so it was basically used for after school tutoring program, which was ran by Miss Kalimna Camp, and she said she wanted to come back. Miss Maddie, and my good friend, I can't think of her name, and she wanted to help too as well. I think a little bit into him, and they wanted to come back and run it and make sure they had the after school teachers, not somebody come up there and Thelma Star, teachers who come up there who came from the school and was willing to work with the kids and help them with their after school math and et cetera stuff, because we knew that they were below reading. They know that they were behind in math, and they really needed help. Since we placed the basketball goal there, we know it's a hangout, and it became a hangout for games. We left it there for 2 years, didn't monitor, didn't turn the cameras on, didn't run the video to the shed. So there's a lot of hangout and probably doing some stuff some of the kids shouldn't be doing. And I noticed that most of the kids was up there wasn't from around here. It was around Atlanta way, and they probably some gang members seeking out new territory. So I think the cameras need to be put out as soon as possible, and they need to be connected to the office of sheriff, either Brown or City County Police, so they can kind of keep a tap on what's going, the activity that's going on in the park. But basically, it's a nice building, because there was a vision that I had for that community. It seems I had a piece of the vision for Spring Hill community. It was about, I think it's about 11, 12 acres of property that could be built, and it was originally set up for a baseball field, T-League baseball field, football field, soccer field, that could be built on that particular piece of property, because they were what the community wanted, and this we wanted. So I'm glad to come back and work with the Board of Commissioners, work with you, Mr. Prime, bring it back up to par, and put peoples in it that care about the community. That's why I was talking about Miss Starr, Miss Maddie, and Miss Calamity Camp, people who know the community, who know the kids, and can get the kids to come back up there, and hopefully fund it this time, whereas they can really help the kids, rather than just closing it down and the kids drifting every which way and probably doing some stuff they shouldn't be doing. And I'm gonna close this with one note. I'm shut up, y'all. Mr. B.C. Crow and I, we were good friends. We served on the Recreation Board for about 24 years. And one of the things that the late Mr. B.C. Crow said, and we both agreed on, we would laugh about it in his lifetime, we would rather see a child doing something positive, playing sports, or doing their homework or something, than to run around going to the jails. And we know now that our jails are full now, because I believe now they're probably sleeping on boats over in the jailhouse right now. because we haven't got enough space for them. And until we start having programs in our community that will draw our kids, help keep our kids off the street, our jails and institutions will continue to be full. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Long.
Thank you. All right, I'm not trying to make anybody mad here. You know, I love you, JC, but good Lord, this building is 10 years old, and I was there probably 6 months ago, and I just don't see how $800,000 needs to go in that building. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm very conservative when it comes to that, and I've done a lot of building for 30 years, and I'm sure y'all bidded it and everything you're supposed to do, but I would be remiss not to say that. I mean, that number is, I mean, I'm just looking at some of the individual cost on that and thinking, dear God, I mean, I can do flooring for probably $9 grand, you know, so I don't know, and I'm sure you know your job. I'm not trying to make anybody mad, but I have to say that as a commissioner about money, because I just look at these numbers and go, wow. And I know there's some money in there because it's government, there's things we have to do for legal purposes, but I really have been blown away by these numbers.
Can I just, so first of all, what you see here is a budget proposal, meaning this is kind of the conservative estimate of what we think would cost to do the project itself and these components. What I do and what we make sure that the contractor does is buy out and get the best value as possible. So every bit of savings that comes out of that process, I monitor, and we get that back. Sunbelt, and we do work with a lot of different contractors around, you know, the metro area. Sunbelt is one of the best at doing that. So I am confident that we should be able to do this for better numbers than that, but how much I can't tell you until we buy it out. I will also kind of note that almost $170,000 of that $800 is for improvements outside, adding new components to the site, like a play fountain, increasing and enlarging and rebuilding the playground, adding electrical services to the pavilion so it can be used after hours instead of just during the day. Making improvements to the parking area so that it is, one, ADA accessible, and two, just
the parking
easier
area,
to
I thought that
maintain.
number was good, so I'm just going to tell you that. You know, what in the world are we doing to that kitchen for $70,000?
Well, that includes all the new equipment, all the new appliances as well. And we have, because it is a facility that will be used for the preparation of food, we have to have a new hood in there,
Right.
and hoods, and then you got exhaust fans and all the things that go along with that. You got ANSEL systems for fire. You know, all this has to meet all the fire life safety code requirements because it is a public facility. So yeah, it's more expensive than it would be like if I was building a kitchen in my house.
I know about 70,000. Will this building be manned by county employees? Because this is going to be an M&O issue at some point. Are we going to have, I mean, with this much money going in that building, we don't want to every 10 years spend $1 million on that building. We want to make sure that we have somebody manning it and keeping up with it.
That'll be a board decision at that time.
Yeah, I just, that's all for me.
You done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner Lindsay. You have anything? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification. This building was built in 2000, so it was 25 years old.
Thank you. 25, okay.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Only thing I think we need to know is that we have always used Mr. Prine and asked him to come. He was asked by interim interim chairman to look at it, give us an RFP, come back with the numbers and stuff in order to renovate it. And the understanding was, at least from the conversation that we had, was that it would be ran by the recreation department, and that the teachers, you will put somebody, the three people that I talked about in it, and you're gonna bring some teachers from the high school actually to help the children who knew what they were doing, maybe one or two, knew what they were doing in order to help the kids in that particular building. Now, the $1 million was set aside that I put on the SPLOST that was approved by the citizens of Newton County. So it was budgeted, the money was there. So it was to fix it up, bring it back up to speed, and this what came back with. I know that sometimes in government, stuff get kind of high. So what can I do? I don't know. I'm not a Leon Long or Stephanie Lindsay. I mean, Attorney Stephanie Lindsay, Commissioner. I'm not that person, but I know what the community wants, and so that's why we have people to help us to get what we want, and that's what we reached out. We reached out for them to help us to get that building back up, put it back to running, because I think from the outside the horseshoe, I think one time, Commissioner Lindsay, you were saying that the money had been maybe misplaced on her. So we got back, got new numbers, and we're trying to get it right. And it be ran by the Recreation Department. The same as our cousin gonna be ran by the Recreation Department in its function. So, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lindsay.
Okay, so I think that sometimes in some of the things that we do at Nelson Heights Community Center, and I understand that this is District 4 Community Center, we put the cart before the horse. I'm not sure, and I'm looking at the budget, and I have no comment about the budget. But what I do have a comment about is how much influence or how much discussion has been placed in the budget items as it relates to what the purpose is of the building. Because I think that that needs to be ascertained, because it's all over the place. What is the purpose for the building? If the purpose for the building is to provide services to the Nelson Heights community, what services are we talking about providing? Are we talking about providing an after-school care program, a program for teenagers, a program for seniors, and is that going to be the focus? And if that is, how is it that the rec department is going to run that? And I don't understand how we are making budget considerations without having an idea of who's going to be in there to operate the space in the first place, to see what they need. If the focus, and my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've been in this community for a long time. My understanding of Nelson Heights Community Center was that the main purpose for this place was to cultivate children, was to help children, was to focus on a community that is in need of individuals that provide guidance for children, that provide tutoring services for children, that provide mentoring services for children. And so, with all due respect, I'm a team player. But I'm looking at this list here, and I see a computer lab that we're trying to renovate, but we haven't had any communication with anybody who's in line to be at that facility that's gonna run it for the children to see if that's in line with what they need. So I see the splash pad, it's $100,000, okay. Is that really a priority compared to what the focus and the purpose is for the space? If the focus is what I just mentioned, which is what my understanding has always been, is $100,000 or $117,000 going to a splash pad, going to cultivate kids, going to help with their literacy, going to help with the things that they need so that, like Commissioner Henderson said, we'll stay out of gangs, stay off the streets. I believe, and it's just my opinion, but I'm just in District 3, but like I told somebody today, any issues that are going on in anywhere in the county, people are not committing crimes and saying, oh, I'm in District 4, I'm going to stop at District 4. This is the District 4, District 3 line, I'm going to stop here. That's not what they're doing. So we collectively, as a body, have to take in consideration what the purpose is. All I'm asking is for direction from somebody, anybody, to tell me what is the purpose? What is the primary purpose? And I don't think that that's an answer that you can give us.
Well, I can tell you what we've discussed. So what we've discussed is the purposes of this complex, and the building being one of them, was one, it does serve as a park. So there are activities like there's basketball, there's playgrounds, there's green space. The intent was to have the play fountain because that would give children something to do in the summertime when it was hot. Very similar to what we've done out at Spring Hill Park. The building was, the purpose behind it was multi-purpose. It was a building that could be used for community get-togethers. It could be very similar to what we have at Turner Lake, at what we'll have at R.L. Cousins, what we have at Spring Hill Park, where you could rent it, you could use it for a reunion or whatever, but it's also, we're putting a lot of time and energy into making it serve the purpose that is the driving one for the building, which was the after-school programs, the education of the young people, having the building set up to where it could be used as a teaching tool, as a mentoring tool. And so therefore you see a lot of money invested in the internet service, the projectors, the Chromebooks, the furniture, the kitchen, so that you could serve meals out of it if you wanted to do after-school meal programs, and so forth. So that was kind of the purpose that drove the function of the building. And then from that, these repairs came out of the need to be able to do that. Now granted, we work at y'all's pleasure, and if we've missed it, or if we didn't get something right, then we want to do that, right? Because this is precious money, as you've said, right, Commissioner, and we get that. But this is what we understood the purposes were, and from that, the needs that the building and the grounds needed to be able to meet those objectives.
But there has not been any discussion with any, even the individuals that
they were involved with coming up with this list.
With the list on the technology for the classes?
Well, what the needs were as far as how they would use the facility. So they're not really experts in understanding about the fact that we're going to have to increase the bandwidth of the internet service into the building to be able to have 20 Chromebooks going on at the same time. They just know that they want to have 20 Chromebooks going on at the same time. How do you get that accomplished for us? We're kind of we're doing the technical analysis to kind of meet their objectives. And I didn't mean to.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. I just know that there were certain things that were done at Washington Street to get Washington Street up to par to deal with all the STEM programs that they wanted to incorporate and all the things that they wanted to do with technology. And I'm not, very
similar to what we're doing here. Matter of fact, that was one of my projects as well. Okay. Was the renovations of Washington Street. That's right. And they had that very incredible after-school program that Miss B and the others run. And so we've kind of listened and used some of that experience and understanding as well for this particular facility.
Thank you. Commissioner Long, and then Commissioner Henderson.
Just real quick, I just want to make sure I've seen Nelson Heights Center work. I've been there many times, and I think it's a great program. And I think it's the great after-school program that they do, and the volunteers that help. I'm just thinking in long-term, kind of like what Commissioner Lindsay said. For what we're doing with all this stuff, it needs to be basically have somebody there that runs the center. Because I just have a vision, I guess this is my business mind coming in, that, okay, we're going to have this big kitchen, somebody's going to be cooking over there. What happens if somebody gets burned? What happens if somebody's over there in the water park and they fall? There's no parents watching them. I mean, I feel like it's a big liability if we don't have it manned. I think we're fine with having what we want to have over there and what their vision is, but I just kind of look at it from a long-term stance of what happens there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what happens out at Denny Dobbs when they run through the water over there. But I just look at it and think, okay, we're having all these, who's going to be responsible for all these Chromebooks when they go out? Do they come back in that night? I mean, it's just things that we got to think through. And I wasn't here, and maybe Commissioner Lindsay wasn't here when we did this, so I don't know what the plan was. I don't know what, but you know, I'm all in favor. I don't want anybody to think I'm not in favor for Nelson Heights, but I just want to make sure we have a defined purpose of what all this stuff is and how it's going to be managed long term, because all the citizens of Newton County will pay the taxes to manage these facilities.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Ms. C. You know, if you just think back, this board closed down Nelson Heights. Said, well, and this thing, what was told said that, well, you know, it's not being ran right, somebody, and said, we can run it better. And I said, I don't think that you can run that building as good as my son and myself had for $30,000 a year. We had teachers there. We had people there to run that particular building. We had cameras on that monitor the basketball goal. But I tell you, when you told me not to come to the meeting, you said, well, you stay outside and we're gonna fix this thing we want to, and you closed it down. You didn't think about how you were gonna open it back up. Didn't worry about it. So now we got this point, and then you come with all kind of excuses to say, well, this is the reason why we want to keep it closed. But the citizens of Newton County, the taxpayers, Commissioner Lindsay, they voted on that $1 million to go to Nelson Heights. They didn't say go over there in any other district or any other where, spend that money to renovate that building. They wanted that place so they could lease it for family reunion, you name it what, similar to Spring Hill. And that's exactly what it's gonna be used for, the same thing the other part. In fact, there was a model that I used when we thought about Spring Hill. I said, well, you're not gonna build something at Spring Hill without putting a community center there. And we made sure that was in the plans too. Even though at that time it wasn't in District 4, but when I was reelected, it was in District 4. So stop punishing those people. If you want a particular program over there, hey, let's work together to do it. Let's renovate it and put a program over there that you can kind of go along with to a certain degree. Just make sure that I'm a part of it and put the folks over there. You're getting exactly what you asked for, and now you got it. You act like you don't want it. We gave it to you. I said run it better. And you get all these ideas, but it still don't want any action. I'm for helping people, making the community better. You know, and people say, well, but you're taking that same money that the folks voted on to fix that place over there, fix it back up, $1 million. And you've been fighting me ever since it was approved. Stop fighting me. Work with me. Please. I'm workable. Please. That's all.
Commissioner Edwards, then Commissioner Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my understanding was, and I thought it was understanding of the board, some part last year, maybe even the year before, that after these renovations were complete, that we would put a tenant that would provide this type programming that the commissioners have discussed here in the Horseshoe tonight for the children of that community. We would put a tenant in that building that provide that programming. And I believe that's what the build out is for, is to provide or facilitate a space that would be easy for someone to come in there and provide that programming for
Yes,
the
sir.
after school or the summer programs or whatever that might be. But my understanding there was going to be a tenant that would take care of these type services for us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Lindsay.
All right. So I'm a very straightforward person, and I'm very clear on my intentions, and I want to make sure that it's clear for the hearers. And I apologize in advance for the individuals that are looking at this on video who are going to definitely comment to me about my facial expressions. But they are, because when I hear foolishness and mess, I can't help it. But let me just say this. I think that Nelson Heights Community Center should be bigger than what it is. I think that more money should be put into Nelson Heights Community Center, but in a more productive way. I don't understand how it is that whatever I say translates to some hearers that I'm against Nelson Heights Community Center. Believe it or not, I'm a big advocate. He knows it. The problem is I want the center to be productive. I want the center to be what it is intended to be. If that takes $2 million, it doesn't matter if it's pouring into kids and is going to be producing what we wanted to produce. I'm all for it. There's no misunderstanding of that. So when I question this, I'm not questioning it to say I'm against Commissioner Henderson. I'm saying for the record, while we don't agree on a lot of things, and a lot of people may think that we don't like each other, one thing I'm 100% behind is I'm going to help him do everything that he can to help Nelson Heights be what it is intended to be. But we got to do it the right way. Have I said that Nelson Heights has been mismanaged in the past? I have. I haven't sugarcoated anything. I have been very clear about what I've said. But that's the past. We're moving forward, and we're moving forward with people that have a vision that is in line with what you want for District 4 and Nelson Heights Community Center. Don't misunderstand that. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm very clear about what I'm saying. I'm supportive of it. I think it needs to be bigger. I think it needs to be better, and I think it needs to be managed by an entity that has proven success in helping kids. I think it needs to be transparent. I think whatever money is given to Nelson Heights, they need to be accounted for in terms of what they spent their money on. I think that we need to have budgets that they provide to us. I think that we need to have an accounting. I think that we need to have an organization that is there that is not afraid to provide bank statements when they are audited and the auditor asks for bank statements. That's the kind of Nelson Heights Community Center I want for District 4. I have been very clear since the day I moved to this community, I'm about helping kids. Our kids are getting lost in the system. I understand that this facility is going to be a game changer. I've said it, and I've continued to say it, and I will continue to say it. Mr. Henderson knows the truth. Mr. Henderson knows that when I first learned that kids were over there at Nelson Heights back in the day, I was ready to write a big check, didn't hesitate. But his board members were the ones that told me, don't do it.
You were wrong, you were wrong.
They said they don't do it. But guess what? We're here now. It's 2025. We're moving forward. I'm helping in any way that I can. But I want it to be done the right way. I want it to be transparent, as our good friends in the audience always talk about transparency. I want it to be transparent. I don't think that it should be transparent for certain people, but then other people, we need to ignore that. I think that everybody that's providing a service on behalf of Newton County, when we decide that we're going to delegate a responsibility that we have as a county to someone else, another entity, we need to hold them accountable. We need to demand certain things. I appreciate what you've done, Mr. Prine. I appreciate it. I don't think, unlike Leanne, I disagree. I think that this budget, if we're going to do it the right way, is probably going to be more than $800 to do it the right way. So we're not revisiting this 10 years again. Don't forget, supposedly there was a kitchen renovation already done here. That's what the money was spent for before. There was a kitchen renovation that was already done. We closed down for 2 years because we were doing a kitchen renovation. So we're doing another one. Guess what? If it's needed, it's needed. $70,000 is a lot of money for a kitchen renovation. But if you're telling us that we need it because it's going to meet the purpose of the community center, I'm all for it. I'm with you. I'm with you. Stop doing that.
Hey guys, listen.
Stop doing that.
Listen. So the back and forth between the commissioners, we're gonna stop that. So if y'all got questions, y'all ask questions. But the back and forth between each other, we're gonna stop that. So Commissioner Henderson, it's your turn. So
Well,
y'all got questions, ask questions.
Thank you,
Back
Mr.
and forth between each other. I'm telling you, we're gonna stop that.
Respond.
We're gonna go home on it. Whichever way y'all wanna do
I can
it.
respond to any question that somebody asks.
The back and forth between the commissioners are gonna stop.
Let me say this: there was a conspiracy against myself and Nelson Heights because the auditor, Mr. Sanchez, was somebody y'all chose. Wasn't somebody we picked up. Y'all chose him, and y'all gave him a narrative to go out and find stuff. Then use the people that we used, Mason Taxes, who had all the records that we had, and they gave to you every check that we spent since you were going back there and said it was did wrong, it wasn't open. Yes, it was open. So stop lying on us and stop lying on this community. Just go ahead and if you're gonna do it, I said, well, what I said was, and you didn't hear me, let me say it again. If you think it was ran wrong, run it right. But you haven't done that. You say you're gonna open it up. I know Lanier Sims, the interim chairman, said we're gonna open up in the first part of the year. He didn't. So now you say it's gonna be maybe in July, do it. But stop trying to point fingers and say that I did something wrong, because if I did something wrong, I would be on my way to jail. I would be, and I'm not. Now, hey, and let me say this, in my own, let me say this, in my own way. No man, I'm not above law. If I did something wrong, I want to go to jail. If I did something wrong, I'll step down. That's who I am. And I'm not afraid to do it. So if you're going to help the folks, good. If you still going to keep Ken in the road and tell old lies on me and say, well, this is what we're doing. And if I did something wrong, I want practice to tell him, say, well, Jay said you did something wrong. And the only thing he come up with is say you rent the building out. That we've been doing every building we got, we rent out. The new ones, the old ones. Every building in Newton County you rent out. And that's all they came with, so you rent it out. So come on, y'all. If you're going to help Nelson, the people in Nelson Heights, then do it. If not, don't.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, sir. So what we're asking is for you to authorize us to amend the contract with Sunbelt in the amount of $808,200 so that we can move into the next phase of construction.
So it really just says discussion. That's Reno Maxon.
Well, I'm just saying, well, for us to be able to maintain the schedule and have it ready at the time frame that we've been asked to try to get it done, that would be the best option for us.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a motion tonight, I would have to amend the agenda. Is there a motion to amend the agenda? To add?
Second.
It's been motioned that we'll amend the agenda to add discussion and consideration. So I'm gonna make that number 10. It's been motioned by Commissioner Lindsay and second by 11A, I'm sorry. It's a motion by Commissioner Lindsay and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion on that? Commissioner Lindsay.
And I know this is putting you on the spot. Is there any way that we can, as we go through this process of Sunbelt doing what they're doing, can we aggressively start making moves? And I'm asking you, Mr. Brown, can we aggressively start making moves to pinpoint what we're going to do with Nelson Heights Community Center? Because it is a shame, and I'll be the first one to say it on the record, that it's been closed for 2 years and nothing has been done. That is absolutely ridiculous. Can we aggressively figure out what we're going to do? It shouldn't take 6 months to do it. It shouldn't even take 60 days to do it. If we go ahead and start looking for who's going to be there, how we're going to organize that and make that a priority so that they need to speed up with our timeline and not vice versa. So if they want to get this job done, they need to try to see if they can get it done before July so that we can have kids in there this summer. And if we can have a discussion about that and finalize that in front of everybody so it's recorded in history that we want this thing done ASAP, period.
Yes, that's one of the things that we have already begun discussing, long-term views for Nelson Heights. So as the staff, once we got back with Jeff and we look at the overall project and the direction that Commissioner Henderson and the community wants it to go, we also wanted to talk to the school board, local community members, things of that nature. We
That's
have
great.
started the process of that, yes.
But I understand we started the process, but I need a commitment, and I'm pretty sure you want a commitment, that this is going to be something that is going to be prioritized and is going to be aggressively handled so that it is not done in months, but more so in weeks.
Yes, I do agree, and one of our goals is to bring it back to the board as soon as possible.
Okay.
Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Jeff. Sorry that we got off on this tangent and you had to go through all that. But I agree with Stephanie, with Commissioner Lindsay, and I think we should make that part of the motion. To vote on this, I want Nelson Heights back open. I'm like Commissioner Henderson. I don't know why it's been closed this long. It's ridiculous that those kids, every time I go over there, I have a great experience there. And we need to get something open for those kids. I do. And so I just think that we should be doing a motion and go ahead and get this ball rolling on this project. But in the meantime, let's define. So Commissioner Lindsay, you said it so well, so you could make that a motion that we could get this thing going, but then define what we're going to do with it and what's going to, how it's going to be work and what we're going to do and who's going to run it and all that kind of stuff. So it is a good center for the kids where it doesn't get torn up and shut down again. We want it to stay open for as long and volunteer over there and different things that we can to help in that area. So that's all I want to say about that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Well, let's be clear on what it is that
She's amending the agenda.
Yeah. All in favor? Thank you. Now we're going to do 11A. We need a motion. Commissioner Henderson, you want to make the motion? To move the project along.
As stated by the chairman.
Is there a
Make the
second?
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Henderson, second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion?
I have a substitute motion.
Okay.
I like to motion that we vote to move the project along for the $808,200 and simultaneously that we set a 60-day time period to aggressively address how the center is going to be operated. The substitute motion is to vote to approve the $808,200 as presented by Sunbelt Builders for the renovation and to set a time period of 60 days to be able to come back to the Board of Commissioners with a plan on how Nelson Heights Community Center is going to be run in detail, which would include how it is going to be operated, how the money is going to be allocated for this, who's going to be responsible for paying the bills there, as well as to include an accountability schedule for whoever it is that is going to operate the facility there.
Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner. I'd like to make a substitute motion as well, please. Why y'all killing me?
I'd like to make a substitute motion as well, if I could.
Go ahead, sir.
My substitute motion is what Commissioner Lindsay has stated, but add on to that motion with the input of the community, rather than taking the community out, forgetting about them, and make them a part of the solution.
Is there a second? That motion failed for lack of support. We'll revert back to the original substitute motion, which was motioned by Commissioner Lindsay. Is there what? And I think it was second. It was second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion on that? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we are for Nelson Heights or anywhere in the county, then why would you include the peoples? I mean, what's wrong with including the people who live in the area? Why do you want to cut them out and have something did in their community without their input? We wouldn't do that anywhere else. Nowhere. Nowhere in the county. We wouldn't do it in District 1. We wouldn't do it in District 2. We wouldn't do it in District 3. We'll do it in District 4, but we wouldn't do it in District 5. What's wrong with that?
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to put out there, I don't want anyone to think that the community will not have any feedback in regards to this. I think what this board is trying to do at this particular point is move this project along as quickly as we possibly can. We have a county manager that's going to be in place. We have a project manager that's going to be in place. You all have the autonomy to have these conversations with residents that live in the district that can provide you with the feedback. So I don't want it to be stated from this board that the community has no feedback at all, because that is inaccurate information, and we have staff in place that are in position. I know our project manager, you stated here tonight that you've had conversation with Commissioner Henderson. You had conversation with people in the community already. So you generally have an idea of what that should be anyway, and so you all still have the autonomy to still be able to do that going forward, but not try to put it where it prolongs the actual project being done. So I want to put it out there to let it know that just because the way that we're trying to move now doesn't mean that we're negating community feedback. That is definitely what's going to happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Lindsay.
I believe I heard you say, Mr. Prine, that you actually had an opportunity to talk to some of the individuals that gave feedback on what it was that they wanted at the community center. I know for a fact that that's what you said. Now that means
I said staff have had opportunity.
Staff have had conversation with individuals. All right, so just to be sure for the record, the motion is what the motion is. That does not preclude anybody from not having a conversation with the county manager or from Commissioner Henderson. As a matter of fact, Commissioner Henderson is very well known for having town halls in the community to address issues, and might I suggest that you have a town hall and invite Mr. Prine and invite County Manager Brown over here so that you can have the input. The motion is just to bring that information back to us so that you have a plan. That motion is not to exclude anybody in the community from taking part in it. We know how important it is for you to have input from individuals in the community as it relates to Nelson Heights. And so the motion that's been presented is just to set a timeline as to what it is that we want you guys to have and present to us within 60 days. So for the record, so it is clear, Commissioner Stephanie Lindsay from District 3 is not saying that the Nelson Heights Community Center project should not have input from the community. To the contrary, I'm saying it's welcome and it should be taken into consideration. And when you guys bring that back to us, hopefully it'll be a consensus that everyone can live with. Not everybody's going to be happy, but everybody can live with it because we're trying to get the project moved forward.
Guys, I'm calling for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Passes 4-1. Ms. Prine.
All right,
Number 12.
So the number 12, this is the, let me get myself together here for a second. So we're on R.L. Cousins. So as an example, when we put the project out for bid and got our guarantee amounts from Price, there was several components in the building that we weren't aware that we could afford. A lot of it was interior upgrades, also like the mural that we talked about earlier. So this particular amendment with Sunbelt is from savings that we've been able to get from the buyout of the project with them, that we are now able to come back and buy back additional components of the project that we didn't think we could. So we're asking you to authorize the amendment in the amount of $250,000, making their total contract amount $7,443,800.
Is there a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Long and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson.
Are we referring to the school over there, Oracle School?
Say again?
Oracle School that what you're talking about?
Right. So basically, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All in favor? It passes 5-0. Next is item number 13.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The next item is number 13. This is the discussion of the historic jail aesthetics and renovations. We have Ms. Walker Hughes Along with Ms. Walker Hughes, we have Dr. Karshik Alvarado and Mr. Tyrone Brooks that will be presenting.
Ms. Prine, stay up here, please. Yep, yeah, come on up, guys.
Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, everyone. We won't be before you long. We just wanted to come before you to discuss some of the, one of the projects that's, it's a SPLOST 2021 project, which is the historic jail renovation. After going through some of the process and speaking with Mr. Prine and with Sunbelt Builders, we decided to bring in a subject matter expert to kind of go through how this renovation will look and how to best acknowledge what it is and what happened there as it relates to the Newton 6. So we have with us today Mr. Tyrone Brooks, Representative Tyrone Brooks, who was a part of the Newton 6 that were arrested and detained at the historic courthouse. And we also have Dr. Karshik Alvarado, who is a subject matter expert on how you can best preserve the history of a building without destroying the historical footprint. And so after some conversations with Mr. Prime and with Sunbelt Builders, it was determined that the cells, the jail cells, are scheduled to be removed. Now, if you remove the cells from the historic courthouse, you remove the footprint. And so we wanted to bring it back to the board to have consideration for if we truly want to preserve the history of what that building is, we may need to consider keeping the cells in place and working around those cells so that we have the historical footprint. Because as Dr. Alvarado will share with you, and as Mr. Representative Brooks will share with you, that is the history of the building. So I'm going to ask first Representative Brooks, who was there at this jail, to come up and share some words. And he's also speaking on behalf of Mr. Joseph Lightfoot, who's passed away just recently. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ms. Hughes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the distinguished Newton County Board of Commissioners. Thank you for letting me come by and just have a few minutes to let you know that I am, along with the recent conversation I had with Joe Lightfoot before he passed away, was January the 17th. Joe and I sat at his home and we talked about maintaining the cell blocks inside the jail. Because if you remove the cell blocks, there is no jail. It's just a building, it's just a shell. So we want to reiterate to you basically that if you're going to move forward to call this an historic renovation of the Newton County Jail, where 6 of us were held in 1970 for 2 months in solitary confinement by Sheriff Junior Odom, that you would keep those cells in place, that you do your renovation and whatever else you need to do. But I hope that this board will instruct your contractors and renovators to make sure that the cells are not removed. I was just at the Lawton, Virginia Federal Prison in Lawton, Virginia, where 5 of us were held in 1968 during the Poor People's Campaign. The cell blocks are intact. I went through the prison in 2023. We have photographs of the cell blocks where I'm inside of the cell blocks. That's a very special place because it was Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph Abernathy's project just before Dr. King's assassination. So we hope that you will agree that to maintain the history, the true meaning of the history of the Newton 6 and the movement that occurred here to transform this whole region, that you would keep the cell blocks intact. On behalf of Joe Lightfoot, Forrest Sawyer, Leon Walker, Robert Johnson, and Lloyd Jackson, I beg you to keep the cell blocks intact.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to
Good
see
evening.
some familiar faces, new faces. Again, my name is Dr. Karshik Alvarado. I am the CEO of Preserve Black Atlanta, as well as the CEO of Preserve Black America. And my mission statement is actually what the title says. I don't sugarcoat that. I'm an advocate for the preservation of historic sites, whether they are related to people of African descent in the U.S. or not. But in the field of preservation, we govern ourselves by a code of ethics. And part of that includes accessibility and also maintaining the integrity of buildings. And a lot of times when we use that word, people go, well, what does integrity mean? So a lot of times we think about character. But when the National Park Service was established in 1966, they decided that they would govern themselves by these two ideas regarding preservation. And one of those ideas is that a building's historical integrity is a building's ability to convey its historical significance. And also, you must maintain the authenticity of a building's historical identity. So if I decided to take this building today, as I drove up, I was looking at the building. If we decided to repurpose this building to renovate it, okay, to design it, if I took that clock tower off and decided to put something digital there, you remove the historical identity of the building. If I decided to take away these pews and the banister, it no longer looks like a courthouse. And if I decided to come in and put in a coffee shop, cubicles, it's no longer a courthouse. So you have removed the characteristics of the building that makes it historically significant. We're at a moment in our history where history is being erased. We need these buildings to be able to serve as monuments, to talk about what happened inside when textbooks are no longer doing that. You have such a gem here. I'm sorry, I just got emotional. You have such a gem here. There are not many towns or cities or counties that look the way that yours does. You look at a place like Atlanta, it has lost so much of its history because we have torn down the buildings. And people come to Atlanta because they are looking for those historical events, right? And you can't even see them, you can't even identify them. And we had so much development trying to rebrand ourselves that a place like Newton County becomes special because you can still tell its stories from the buildings. They are physical, tangible reminders of things that happen. And when we remove those historical characteristics of the building, you miss opportunities. You lose sense of your cultural assets. And you really have a gem here. I really would encourage you to celebrate your history, to protect the buildings. And as I was talking with Mr. Brooks, I don't think he understood that the building would not be used. I think you thought that the building was going to be served as some sort of museum, some type of monument to honor what took place in 1970 with the arrest of these 6 men. I think the language got confused in regards to difference between a cell and a cell block. And I don't think that he understood that there was a chance that all the cells can be removed. When I went into the space, you can get the feeling of what it was like years ago. I walked by the windows, you could hear the whistling of the wind. I could look outside, and Mr. Brooks told me the story about how when he was in the cell blocks, he and the other 5, that they have a little bit more autonomy than the way that the story had been conveyed to me, that they were able to walk around. They were there for a couple of months. And he told this story about the Gaither girl that came to the window and how his mother came to the window to make sure that they were okay, that people encouraged them, both black and white. And those windows tell stories. And if you remove those things, you missed the chance of telling all this history. And so I came here tonight to ask you to really consider the preservation of this building. I was reading the referendum, and I would hate for people to feel like they've lost faith in the county and thinking that they were going to get one thing and failed to get that. So I'm here tonight to say that I hope that those who are part of Newton County would support the idea of turning this site, preserving these sites, preserving these jail sites, these jail cells, in order to tell the story about this phenomenal building and the people who were in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Prine. Can you kind of give us an update of where we at now, so the board can make a decision on tonight so we can move forward?
Yes, sir. So the mission that we were given at the beginning of this project was not only to talk about the preservation of the project, of the building itself, but to repurpose it for the use of the 4-H and the county extension offices. The thought behind that was kind of twofold. One was to remember the past and commemorate that. Secondly was to kind of rebirth the facility for a new purpose that would give some hope and some I guess, something of goodness moving forward. The children that are involved with 4-H and county extension, what came to mind. They're kind of in the admin building, which is difficult for families to get in and get out of because of the security, and they don't have access to the grounds around them. So we began working with them to figure out how we could fit them into that facility. At the same time, we knew that we had to have a space that was readily accessible by the public, where we could have the history of the building commemorated. So if you walked into the main building, there was 2 spaces in the historic space on the first floor. The one on the left, we decided that would be kind of the museum, where we would commemorate the history. We talked about having, at that point, maybe taking a piece of the cell and putting it in the corner, having a video monitor where people could listen to the accounts of the surviving members of the facility, of the Newton 6, along with other elements of the building itself that we were starting to get into. So that's kind of where we are. We had completed the design. We'd gotten all of our permits, which included we had to present to the building itself is part of the historic district of Covington, meaning that the city of Covington had the jurisdiction of the permitting process. Part of that process was to meet with the local Historic Preservation Commission, present our plans, share with them what our intent was and how we would, help preserve the building and the purpose that was there. The only thing that we were asked to do from their purpose was to leave the bars on the windows so that so everybody would always know that it was a jail. And not to do anything else on the exterior other than the fact that we are adding a stair that you had to have so that people could egress out of the second floor. And there was a stair there historically. It just got removed somewhere over the time. And so that's where we are. We've gotten to a point, we got all of our permits, we were ready to start the construction. But as you guys know, we work for you. So tonight we're very open to understanding how you guys want to move forward with the project, and if we want to make some edits and changes to it, then that's the prerogative, and we'll make that on your behalf.
So let me ask you a quick question. You said that they said that the bars on the windows had to stay?
Yes, sir. The only comment that we got from the local Historic Preservationist Commission was and we weren't taking the bars off, but they were saying just to make sure that the bars on the windows stayed. Their focus was primarily on the exterior of the building. I will give that credit. So.
Okay. Commissioner Long.
Somewhere along the line, I thought that the building was going to be renovated for historical purpose. We don't have room at R.L. Cousins to put the 4-H over there and keep this building historical. I mean, it's so cool. I mean, I was involved with the new jail that we have here in Newton County, and I actually organized the spend the night party. Basically, we were the group that came into the jail and made sure that the, remember that, JC? Made sure that we kind of did the punch out is what we did. We had about 300 citizens that came and spent the night in the jail. And we had church. I spent the night in the Newton County Jail. And I still have mine. I love it. And it was great. I mean, I don't know why we would be taking those jail cells down. I mean, I think that would be so cool to be able to go through there and have that in that jail. So I'm not sure where that came and how we changed it, but good knows we got room over RL Cousins or somewhere to put the 4-H club. And it'd be easier for people to get in and out of better too. But anyway, that's my thought on it. I just wish we could preserve it.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Mason was next, and then Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for the presentation today. I think when if I can recall correctly, when this board began to start talking about the historic jail, I can't recall if it was back in 2019 or 2020 when I actually came on the board. And I credit this to my colleague, Commissioner Henderson, for bringing this up and talking about the Newton 6 and what that building really meant to this community. And I think initially when we first started having the discussion about the renovation, we were talking about, there was an idea of let's make this a historic museum where residents can come in, take on educational trips through this particular facility, where they can understand what that part of history was in this county and all that encompassed. Of course, in the midst of having that discussion, it was brought up about having possibly 4-H or, maybe having a portion of it or a quarter of it. I don't remember exactly how much of renovating it for that. And I think now that we truly look at, and Dr. Alvarado, you mentioned this, we are beginning to see some of our history being erased. And we have to do our best to ensure that we are saving as much of that history as we possibly can. That is not being written in books, and so you're absolutely correct. And this is one of those interesting opportunities or opportunities where we can do that. And so I think, and I'd like to encourage the board, and it sounds like, I heard from Commissioner Long has already stated how she feel. I think maybe, Mr. Prine, we probably want to revamp this whole project and look at it and do everything that we can to possibly go ahead and preserve it as much as we possibly can. And maybe we do need to find another home for our 4-H program so that can be a major historical site that we can, from an educational perspective, truly be able to tell that story and keep that gem here within our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So let's hear from the other two commissioners,
Sure,
and then
that's
we'll
fine.
come back to you.
Okay.
It was Commissioner Henderson, then Commissioner Linton.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Tyrone Brooks, Representative Tyrone Brooks, forgive me, for schooling me about that particular old jailhouse, and Joe Lightfoot too as well, Forrest as well. I mean, y'all schooled me on it. Y'all schooled me. You worried me so much I would go home and have sleepless nights until we got that little thing out there talking about the historic value of that particular building, others. That wasn't what I wanted, but at least it made y'all feel a little bit better. And I'm just going to add this on, and you correct me if I'm wrong. The Newton 6 was there a long time, but there were several other students from R.L. Cousin School. In fact, the same what I talked about earlier, when they came from R.L. Cousin, historic R.L. Cousin, marched on Easter March up here, they were jailed in that same jailhouse. It was packed. In fact, I walked by as a child with my mother, and they were like, "Hey, let me out." He was so full. You almost like they were squeezing their head through the bars. But in Junior Odom, the sheriff then, I was scared to death of Junior Odom because he had them real king-toe boots, and I was told he would use them. See, I'm from around here, and I know the history from around here. And so the thing that concerned me over the years, because I've been here, I think, almost from the beginning of wanting to do something with it, was that historic jail had been on, I think, 2 or 3 spots, and each one had got about $3 or $4 million, and we're still spending money on it. And I would like to just, I think I'm hanging around too much, Commissioner Long, cut the bleeding and fix it. We don't need to take anything out of it. We need to renovate it, figure out a way to make sure during Black History Month, Martin Luther King birthday or whatever, to be able for people to come in and see what had happened to some of our citizens in Newton County here in Newton County. Because I'm a firm believer that history repeats itself. If our kids don't know anything about history, guess what? It'll come back and bite them. And so, as long as I got breath, and I know, Representative Brooks, as long as you have breath, you're going to continue to tell us all about what has happened and what we need to do. And hopefully that our young people, the ones who are concerned, will take heed to what we're talking about and try to preserve this and read their history. And I'm going to say this, Mr. Chairman Close. When, as a young adolescent, I was growing up, going through school, when I started learning about the history of people of color, I was a mad young black man. Because I couldn't figure out how could they do me like this, and we all are Christians. And I've learned that. But since then, as I've aged, I understand that we all have to live together in peace. And the way you do it is by not letting history repeat itself. Make sure our children get a good education. Make sure our older people, such as myself, are taken care of as best we can. And we'll all live peacefully and good in our community, in our county. And I would like to personally say, Mr. Brooks, if I never told you, and I believe I have, we appreciate you. We value what you have did for the state of Georgia, and we value for what you're doing for here in Newton County. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Lindsay. Guys, after this, we're going to ask for a motion that we amend the agenda so we can take a vote on how we move forward. Commissioner Lindsay.
I think that everything has been said by Commissioner Henderson Long and Commissioner Mason. I just want to make sure that we're reminded that time is of the essence. And from the beginning, we thought that this was all, before I even thought about being on this board, I've always thought it was a preservation project and not a repurpose project. For the life of me, with all due respect to those who have been involved, I don't understand who would have thought that it would have been a good idea to put kids in a historic jail. That doesn't correspond. What I will say is this: I was not here during the time that the Newton Six made their statement, and the students. We've heard the stories several times from Joseph Lightfoot. Joseph Lightfoot used to come to my office and sit and tell me the stories about what used to happen behind my office at the record store there. So I've learned a lot about the history, and I learned a lot from you, Representative Brooks, definitely from Forrest Sawyer, without a doubt from Forrest Sawyer, from Joseph Lightfoot, and from Commissioner Henderson, because for years Commissioner Henderson used to tell the story about what he saw as a child looking at the Newton Six doing what they were doing in the community to better us so that we can sit here. I believe in preservation, without a doubt. I think that my understanding was it was going to be a museum. I think that that's where we need to go with this. I don't think that we should think about repurposing it, because I don't know of, and maybe later on we'll be able to find a suitable organization that can be in there. But for the most part, I think that the priority should be preservation. I also love the fact that Mr. Alvarado is involved in this. I mean, your reputation is unbelievable. What you have done in the United States and abroad to preserve Black American history has been phenomenal, all right? And we're blessed to have you even want to come into Newton County to help. You've been doing more than people know you've been doing to help our community and understand the history here. With that being said, I think that if we're going to focus on preservation, maybe we need to look at going beyond just having a local historic commission that is saying that we're in a historic district, but maybe getting this on a national historic registry so that it can forever be preserved and protected. Because I thought that we were already there. I thought that that's what we had, and I was mistaken. I've now realized it's a county, a city historic. We're in the city limits, so we're in the historic. That's not enough. So if we could focus on preservation and do what we can, I don't know if that's something that you can be involved in, Ms. Hughes, in terms of you being the community liaison, to get us an understanding of what we need to do to apply for a national registry to preserve it. And that way we would never have to have this conversation again. When I'm dead and gone and everybody else is gone, it's preserved. So I would ask for that to be a priority as we move forward with the preservation and not the repurposing of the historic jail.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I thought we had progressed to a point to where this was going to be the 4-H building. So can you hear me? Anyway, I think it could be historically preserved and used. What better way to have kids march in there and see? If you want to teach history, there we go. Right? I mean, you're preserving your history right there. And as long as we're preserving what these good people want us to preserve, and I think we should preserve. So I think it can be used, repurposed for what Mr. Prine is trying to use it for, and preserve the historical significance of that facility. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So from listening to the discussions and the commissioners tonight, I'm going to ask for a motion that we amend the agenda tonight to add this, make this 13A, so we can take a vote. So to be discussion and consideration of the historic jail. I'm sorry? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Long and second by Commissioner Lindsay. Any discussions? All in favor? That passes. I'm sorry? Yeah, 5-0. I'm sorry. So now 13A, so I guess we want to talk about, anybody want to make a motion? Commissioner Lindsay?
I motion that we move forward with the sole purpose of preserving the history at the jail and not make the priority to repurpose the jail. And that along with serving, or at least doing the things that we need to do to preserve the jail, we also entertain how we can make it a nationally recognized historic location.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Lindsay and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. Patrick, County Attorney, are we excluding anything as far as preserving that building as part of our history?
So I think it might be, it might be a good idea to specifically include in the motion that the renovation or the restoration of the jail will not include the removal of any cells. Yeah, that's what I heard was the big issue. So I might suggest that the agenda or that the motion be amended to specifically state that no jail cells will be removed.
So
That's right.
Can you amend your?
I'll amend the motion to include in that no jail cells will be removed, as we already understand that those jail cells are the historic value that we have for the historic jail.
And I still second.
Thank you. It's been motioned, Commissioner Lindsay amended her motion to add no removal of the jail cells, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Edwards.
So now where do we put 4-H?
We'll figure it out.
They're being displaced, correct?
No. So, I don't know if Jeff Bryant, you wanna talk about that? 4-H is already in the admin building.
Yeah, so
and-
4-H is in the admin building now, so they can stay there. What we'll have to do is find a new home for facilities. Facilities was a lot of moving parts here. Elections was moving out, 4-H and County Extension was moving there, facilities was moving into their area. But Jason and I have talked about it.
So
and
this was 4-H and County Extension Office?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we're gonna give direction to our county manager and let him figure it out. But 4-H space is enlarging because of the people that are moving out of that office over there. Is that correct?
They have a need to enlarge.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we can direct our county manager to bring us an update on that.
Correct. And the point that I was going to make is that, first of all, the exterior of the building was meeting all the characteristics and needs for historic preservation. The only thing that really has come into question that I know of would be the cells themselves, because that was going to be removed so that we had program space for those two departments. If they're not there, the cells remain. The only other thing that we're doing is we're renovating the existing space to make sure that it's habitable. It has electricity, it has conditioning, it has restrooms, and everything that it would have to have in the case of use as a museum or any type of facility that would be housed and allow people to come in and around to view what's there. So I think we have our plan is nimble enough that we can make the adjustments to that and then work with the team on getting the other designation that you guys are asking for. I mean, I know we can do that, that's what I want to say.
Commissioner Henderson.
Just one quick question. Are you gonna paint the cell, I mean, the actually, the cell, the bars, or in there too, I mean?
So one of the things that we'll have to take a look at is if you've seen the cells, all that lead-based paint is peeling off of it. So we're probably going to have to bring in a consultant that can help us take a look at that and figure out what is that medium that you have to do to preserve the history, but also make them safe and where people can touch and feel and walk inside of them, right? So that's the one little consultant thing that we would need. I think that we would need some help on as part, because to the point that you guys have made and to the group here, that is the experience that you want them to kind of touch, feel, be a part of, be more active, and they're just something they can see from afar. So we can definitely take that into consideration.
Thank you. So we do have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? It passes 4-1. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Guys, I do want to say, go ahead.
I'll go down here.
Yeah.
Do whatever.
Good to see you, sir. Thank you. Thank you much. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we're at number 14.
Thank you, ma'am.
Discussion of Parks and Recreation Ordinance O-021825. Our County Attorney, Mr. Patrick Jaugstetter, will present.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, present to you, and for discussion only tonight, the revisions or the revised version of the Parks and Recreation Ordinance. If you will recall, at the last meeting, there were some questions and concerns raised about the existing Parks and Recreation Ordinance. We have made some revisions, a fairly substantial revision, to try to address the concerns. We found a few more as we worked through it, and there have been a few more raised over the past couple of days. And I want to just sort of generally walk through, hit the highlights. I'm not going to go through every detail of the ordinance. You've all got that. What we did on the new draft is we made sure we defined terms in a way that we all know what the park or recreation facility means. We all know what a vehicle means. We all know what a weapon means and things like that. We also went through and made sure that the ordinance is very clear about enforcement. So the previous version of the ordinance was less than clear about how the ordinance would be enforced and what authority the magistrate court had to enforce the ordinance. So what we did in this ordinance, in this version, is we have granted, when approved, ultimately if approved, the magistrate court, upon the issuance of a citation, can impose up to the maximum penalty allowed by Georgia law for a municipal or a county ordinance violation. And that penalty is up to $1,000 fine and up to 60 days in jail. The next thing we did is we made clear that it is a violation of the ordinance to remain in a park, in a facility, or on the property after the posted hours. And those posted hours will be posted in each facility, and that will be part of the ordinance. So if it says park close at dusk, and you're there after dusk, you'd be subject to citation, subject to appear in front of the magistrate court. We limited the operations of vehicles. Vehicles can only be operated where they are supposed to be operated. Parking lots, roads, things like that. There was a comment Commissioner Edwards made about making sure we address and prohibit sort of some of the alternative vehicles that are out there, some of these four-wheel drives, the side-by-sides, things like that. We are working on that. And I'll tell you where our trouble lies, is in defining those with terms that don't require that we use kind of the same slang, right? So a lot of times we refer to, people refer to their, your little personal four-wheel drive things. Some people call them four-wheelers or gators or whatever. And so I want to make sure we define them in a way that it's clear to everybody what they are. But the goal is you can operate vehicles that are properly licensed and permitted on Georgia roads. You can operate those in the roadways and the driveways and the parking lots. Beyond that, no vehicles permitted. We're not going to let you go four-wheeling, motorcycling over the grass and things like that. We do allow for personal mobility devices. We have a specific carve-out for that if you're in a wheelchair or a scooter or something like that. We authorize bicycles where they are designated for use. So you don't want bicycles riding across ball fields, so we're going to make sure we designate proper things in their proper places. We have a provision here, and I put this in here because we're doing this in a lot of parks. We are prohibiting or we are restricting the use of drones. You can go, you get a permit, you get authorization. If you do that, you can use the drone, but you don't want people just flying drones all over the place at the park. We limited parking. Parking is only permitted where it's specifically designated and marked. You can't just pull up on the grass and park. You may have events in parks where you have to alter that rule, and the ordinance gives you the rule or gives you the opportunity to do that. We have some general prohibitions. We prohibit any use that is specifically not authorized in the park. And again, that would be handled by signage, things like that. We prohibit specifically the entry into any park when it's closed. Commissioner Lindsay made a recommendation to expand that to if there's a locked area, you're prohibited from entering it. If you lock the ball fields, can't jump the fence, get in the ball fields, things like that. We will make that revision. We prohibit the unlawful use of weapons. Now, weapons is a tough one. The legislature a few years ago specifically prohibits you from banning weapons in parks. That's one of the things the legislature did a few years ago. So we can't ban the possession of weapons in parks. That's unfortunate, I think, but we can prohibit the unlawful use of those weapons. So if somebody carries a weapon into a park and they use it in a way that's unlawful, they are subject not only to an arrest on state charges, which would probably be more appropriate, but we could also charge them under this ordinance. We prohibit hunting, trapping, fishing, and the release of animals, and the release, you can't just go let your pets run loose. Fishing would be authorized only where it's specifically authorized. We specifically made the failure to pay a recreational fine something that can be cited for. Now, the county and the court are going to be cautious, and we don't just rush and charge people with criminal activities. But you can't, if there's something that requires a payment of a fee and you bypass the fee, you can be charged. We prohibit a few basic things. You can't damage any personal property. You can't remove anything from a park. We don't authorize metal detectors unless you come get a permit. And the reason for that is you don't want people walking around digging holes and people falling in holes and twisting their ankles. We prohibit littering, disposal, burning of household stuff. That's a problem in parks that are kind of hidden away, people going and dumping their trash. We have a prohibition on just improper personal conduct. We don't want people acting up in parks. And that gives your park officials, your code enforcement, the sheriff's office some teeth in enforcing that. We want to limit the use of sound devices, loud radios and things like that. We prohibit the use or possession of any controlled substances. We don't need to. That's already illegal, but we might as well incorporate that into our ordinance. We prohibit the consumption of alcoholic beverages except at designated events, and those would be events that you permit. We prohibit tobacco, smoking, and vaping. Now, that's a controversial one. That's one for you to decide, but we did include in here, we prohibit any use of tobacco, any smoking, or any vaping in your parks. We prohibit golfing. That's been something that we've experienced a lot in some of our jurisdictions where there's just a field, people bring their golf balls, start hitting golf balls. You don't want that happening in a park where people might be running around doing whatever other activities there are. We prohibit animals. You can't bring animals except in designated areas of parks. If you bring an animal, they have to be properly leashed. We prohibit fires except where they are specifically authorized. A lot of parks will have fire rings or grills. If you have campgrounds, you're going to allow them within there. We prohibit swimming to areas where swimming is specifically authorized. You can't swim in the lake unless the lake is specifically designated as a place for swimming. Likewise, boats and other water vessels. We have activities that require permits. So the Parks and Rec Department issues permits for certain activities already. We made it clear that if it is an activity that requires a permit, you undertake that activity without a permit, you're subject to a citation. We prohibit fireworks and model planes except in instances where they are specifically permitted or specifically authorized. We restrict the use of athletic fields or courts to specific uses authorized. And this goes to Commissioner Lindsay's comment about locked fields. If we lock a field or close a field, if you breach the field, you can be subject to a citation. We carried over the existing ordinance related to camping. So there's a set of rules you'll see. It's on the last couple of pages that we simply picked those up from the old ordinance and plopped those into the new one. I've not heard that there's a problem with that, but camping's authorized only when and where it's authorized. So a couple of things we're going to address a little more directly. That's not already addressed in here. We will prohibit entering into any locked areas within a park. Any area that's designated by signage is closed temporarily or permanently. We will make sure we better define the types of vehicles that are simply prohibited. And that's kind of those, dirt bikes, things like that. The unlicensed, unauthorized road, things that aren't authorized on the road, we don't want those in those parks. And another thing, this was an idea from Commissioner Lindsay, would be to ban entry into the park upon conviction of a violation of the rules in magistrate court. So upon a first conviction, a temporary ban up to 60 days. After 3 convictions, you'd be subject to a permanent ban. I want to add that we're going to have some appeal processes. So I'm going to work in an appeal. If that happens and you want to appeal, there's a way to appeal it. So that's where it stands today. I'm not going to ask y'all to adopt it today. I want everybody to look at it. I'm going to circulate a revised revision probably tomorrow. If there's any other comments you have, we'll try to incorporate those. And I think at the next meeting, we'll present it to you for adoption. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, I want to hear them so we can make sure we incorporate them.
Thank you. Commissioner Long?
I know Commissioner Lindsay suggested that Sheriff Brown look at these.
Yes.
Did he look over it and
She,
make any comments?
Commissioner Lindsay's forwarded those to the sheriff. I've not heard back, but I'll reach out.
Okay.
I'll reach out
I'd like for
before it comes
the
back.
Sheriff Department to have some input too. They've dealt with some of the calls, I'm sure.
Commissioner Lindsay?
If you could also, I also forwarded it to the fire chief so that he can look over it as well,
Good.
so that he can give us any feedback.
We'll follow up with
Just
that.
go ahead and make those, calls, just to make sure that we touch all the bases, to make sure that they're included in the final adoption.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you all.
Mr. Chair, the next item we have is item number 15, January 2025 January 2025 financial report by our Finance Director, Ms. Brittany White.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Brittany, if you would, please come on up.
I'm gonna remember to not wear these loud shoes next time I come and walk across this boardroom. Okay, tonight I will be presenting the January 2025 financials. January is the 7th month of our fiscal year, so that puts us around 58% of the way through the year. So I'll start with our general fund revenues. To date, we have brought in $72.5 million in revenues, so that puts us right at 73% of our projected revenues. So this graph shows you how much we've brought in per month. So you can see January is by far and away our highest month. January we do receive December tax collections from the tax commissioner. So now progressively throughout the year we'll see the revenues decrease. For our general fund expenditures, to date we are at $55.1 million, so that puts us at 55%. So we're trending really close to that 58% what we're aiming for this time of year. And this graph just shows you the monthly breakdown for the revenues as well as the actual to budget. So at this point in the year, we are $17.4 million over in revenue than expenditures, but as we progress throughout the year, that will change since we've brought in a bulk of our revenue at this point. So we have 3 enterprise funds. We have the water fund. Their revenue to date is $7.4 million and their expenses to date are $4.1 million. Our solid waste fund, their revenue to date is $5.3 million. Their expenses are $3.5 million. And for Gaithers and Factory Shoals fund, their revenue to date is $115,000 and their expenses to date are $151,000. And Jeff touched on all these SPLOST and these same financial reports, so I'm just going to skip over those since we've already talked about them. And then the final slide is our impact fee. So back in November, we did add new buckets to our impact fees. So we're now collecting on library, parks and recs, roads. But we've also added animal services, fire services, and sheriffs. So we've added the public safety element. At this point, we have $1.8 million in our impact fee fund. And that wraps up the presentation, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, guys? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job as always.
Mr. Chair, we are actually at number 16, alcohol license, first reading. Wadi Business LLC, Neighbors Market. It's by Sabudin, Sarsia, 14656 Brownbridge Road, Covington, Georgia, 30016, District 3.
Thank you so much. Next is citizens' comments. This opportunity will allow citizens to make comments. You have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes to do so. You may comment this time.
Dave Norton, 4357 Highway 142, Newborn. JDA was in here earlier. Every time I hear them 3 letters, my blood pressure just goes up. Ms. Hall mentioned that the Rivian has secured a loan. Well, today Governor Kemp also said he's not so sure about that loan. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say, so my blood pressure won't get too bad. Next week we have a planning zoning commission meeting. There will be a developer here. The presenter for them Goes by the name of Phil Johnson. Everyone knows him. Every time he's been in here, it hasn't really looked good for the citizens or what the citizens want. Every time I see that name, my blood pressure goes up there too. So I would like to ask my commissioners to be here next week for that meeting. You don't have to speak. I don't know that you can, but you can sit here and you can listen to the citizens get up and speak. And because if you just hear it secondhand, you won't hear our passion or our commitment to what we want. So I would love to see y'all here next week. We had about 30 people watching on YouTube earlier. I don't know how many's still there. I would ask y'all to come out also, everyone in the room. Please show up. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please state your name, your address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes to do so.
Good evening, you good people. This is Maya Allen. I'm District 3. I had a different agenda when I came up, or when I came in today, but when I saw Mrs. Sawyer, my agenda changed. Apparently, I tried to have a conversation with our county manager on last meeting regarding this, but she was a patron or recipient of the ARPA funds that our seniors receive. And she requested that she had 3 bathrooms and a door that needed to be replaced. And she initially had a contractor, but was told she couldn't use that contractor, that she had to use who was provided, which is a problem because that was not one of the stipulations. They began the work January of 24. They finished in April of 24, but the work was subpar. And so therefore, she did not want to sign off, as none of us would have wanted to. So apparently they went several months with her trying to sign the contract, which she refused, and it was amended without her knowledge. She has no visibility into that contract. The contractor was paid, and she still has poor results in her house. She has been promised phone calls. She has been promised visits, as nothing has transpired up until this point. So going forward, this will be my mission for the next meetings. So I implore you, in your position, to please give Ms. Sawyer a call and attention so that these issues can be addressed immediately. Ms. Sawyer, did you want to say anything?
Pretty much said it all, but because I've been going through this for over a year, and
she's near tears. Let me tell you, she has to go somewhere else to wash dishes, to take a shower, and this has not been addressed. And we have a senior here in tears, and nobody has called her back. So, Mr. Brown, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. As you can see, many of us are in our jogging suits because we were at the hospital 2 counties over because Newton County doesn't provide what's needed for someone who had a behavioral health episode. It's mind-boggling to me that we have passions about mental health, that we've given thousands of dollars to organizations in our county for mental health, and the residents can't get what they need. So we had to spend almost 8 hours, we just came straight here, for a person who could not receive behavioral health situation or behavioral health, mental health assistance because it's not here in Newton County, but we've given funding to people for behavioral health. That is a huge problem for me. Secondly, we helped a young lady other night where we had to drive to another county, Morgan County to be exact, for her to get a rape test kit because Newton County doesn't provide it. Why does a resident have to go to another county to receive services that we always talk about and we provide funding to? That is a huge issue for me. Again, the next situation I had a lot of people asking me for a town hall, Commissioner Lindsay. If you can, please contact the residents for a town hall, because they would like to know how their commissioner is going to vote on residential projects that are coming into their area. They call me, I inform them we have a commissioner in place. If you can please have a town hall with the West Side. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Mason. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to take this opportunity to thank those residents from District 2. We had a amazing town hall last Wednesday evening in reference to HB 581. And those residents basically got a greater understanding of what HB 581 is all about. Mr. Peterson was there, so he was able to hear the discussion. We had a great discussion, and District 2 gave me my marching orders. And so when this board has the opportunity, as a matter of fact, on Thursday, to have that discussion and to have that vote, I now have my marching orders from District 2 on how we're going to move forward with that. I also wanted to, isn't it this week?
We ain't doing anything. So the board, so go ahead. Go ahead. I want to mess up your time.
Well,
Go ahead.
If I'm incorrect, correct me.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
If I'm incorrect.
But I corrected.
Go
ahead.
And then also, I did want to put it out there. It was recently or just stated that there are funding for mental health and behavioral health. I actually am now sitting on the Viewpoint Health Board. And so there is definitely, Viewpoint Health provides mental health. Viewpoint Health provides behavioral health. As a matter of fact, I've got an opportunity to kind of look at their budget. I've got an opportunity to look at their operations. So anybody that needs assistance when it comes to mental health or behavioral health, I want to make it known that those services are provided here in Newton County, and they are free. Viewpoint Health does provide those, so anybody that has those, you don't have to go to another county to actually do that. You can go to Viewpoint Health. I know they have a location that's right near the library downtown. You can go in and they will basically do their best to assist you. If someone goes there and they don't assist you, please feel free to reach out to me. Let me know. And I will have that conversation with the executive director, and we'll make sure that we get that addressed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lindsay.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we lost an icon in our community at the beginning of this month who was put to rest on Saturday at Grace United Methodist Church, and that's Joseph Lightfoot. I'm not sure if there's been a lot of discussion about it, but I do know that Chairman Baines posted some videos of an interview that Mr. Lightfoot did, just recounting his experiences growing up and all the contributions that he made to Newton County. As a matter of fact, there is a whole series that Chairman Baines did on a lot of the other icons that we have in our community that actually represent Newton County Black history. And while there are other entities that are not honoring or acknowledging Black History Month, I just would like for us to, as best as we can, teach our kids about the history here in Newton County. I have had the privilege of actually being around and being molded and scolded by some of the Newton Six and educated about what we should do going forward as a community. And I think that it's important that we educate each other, and I would ask that if you have children, that you direct them to the website that has been produced, so that I think it's Empowering Up on YouTube, that has an actual full video of Janet Goodman, Joseph Lightfoot, Willie Reed, several iconic people in our community. If you want to celebrate February as Black History Month, then you have an opportunity to do so by educating your children and educating yourself on the history of your community. And so I would like to just wish everybody a happy Black History Month. It is February. It's the shortest month of the year, but we can be very impactful in these 28 days. I'm planning on doing it like I do every day.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. And this is Black History Month. I grew up with most of those people. Joseph Lightfoot, in fact, went OC. I think it's auntie, but anyway, lived in the same house. When she was running, I was a major part of her campaign when she ran for City Council and when she won. And one good thing about Joe, he would take a lot of pictures. Ooh, he would take so many pictures. But I never did get one, so I'm hoping that maybe we'll see some of the old pictures that he took of me in Forrest and here others. Forrest Sawyer. Forrest Sawyer Sr., shoot. I mean, he would talk and they would talk and they would talk and tell me a whole lot about Newton County. And I miss him. He brother, Lester Lackey Sr., Junior Dump, I call him Dump. I know his father. We grew up together. Horace Johnson, we grew up together same year. And as Avis said, Williams, who got the award earlier, we're from San Hill. And we understand that the fact that we're from San Hill and we stood up. And I'm going to share a little bit about Avis, and I'm going to shut up. And maybe I'll share a little something about somebody else next time. Avis, them, and the Kings were like kin. And as the story goes, that when Martin had been assassinated, that her mother, Miss Williams, wouldn't take her because she was scared of some kind of threat at the funeral. So, and they did come in to Bethlehem Church, because I remember Chairwoman Kathy Morgan wanted me to bring a picture of them, and I couldn't find them because I don't think too many people had a camera back in them days. But nevertheless, they helped make this county as good as what it is today. And let us not forget our history, good or bad. Because if we forget our history, then we won't know where we're going. You don't know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. And that's what I'm trying to tell the young people today. Know your history so you can know where you came from. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Long.
I just wanted to say, I didn't know anything about the 6. I've never heard about that, but I'm looking forward to go looking it all up and you guys teaching me a little more. Mr. Forrest Sawyer, you couldn't run for politics in this county if you didn't go sit on that front porch. And even as a Republican, I sat on that front porch many times with him and enjoyed those conversations. So since you brought him up several times a night, I wanted to acknowledge that. He was one of my favorite people also.
He's a good friend of mine. Thank you, ma'am. I did have an opportunity to present, we asked we asked Jeff Prine them to get us a brick from the historic jail, and we was able to present it to Mr. Lightfoot and his family, not him, but his family. And it was received well. And I'm thankful that this board is moving in the direction that they're moving in to preserve the jail and make it out of a museum. And so we're just thankful. Thank you for all, and we are going to celebrate Black History Month. With that being said, guys, I seek a motion that we adjourn, please. Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you. 5-0.